Well, you know, Kara, this is a party for Obama bashers. I have to say that this is not entirely representative of everybody in America. This was organized by 3 different conservative groups. And if you look at some of the signs, Kara, let me introduce you to this guy. Would you come over here with me, please? You know, what is this supposed to mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, he's a fascist. The pirates...
Wait, why do you say he's a fascist? He's the president of the United States.
He's a fascist.
Do you realize how offensive that is?
I think he's a fascist.
Why?
Because he is.
In what way can you say that?
Because the real pirates are in the White House, in the Senate, and in the Congress. We need one-term limits for all these elected politicians.
Why be so hard on the president of the United States, though, with such an offensive message?
Because he is. He's a fascist.
Okay. All right. So, okay, we've got a fascist.
Now, as it turns out, Susan had once before confronted this vile practice. Thanks to newsbusters.org, we can get her take on it in this voiceover report from 2006.
They and their teachers say more money is needed to fix the levees, and they hope the president would stop by after his meeting with business leaders. But while a lookalike showed up with a wad of cash, Mr. Bush did not.
Did you get that? Her quote was, "While a lookalike showed up with a wad of cash, Mr. Bush did not." So we have a giant papier-mâché head of George Bush with devil horns, a Hitler mustache, and a Hitler haircut, and that's a lookalike. But somebody says that President Obama is Hitler, and you get...
Why be so hard on the president of the United States, though, with such an offensive message?
So why the difference in the selective outrage? Well, one of these presidents she voted for personally, and the other one she personally despises. And that's what determines what gets on the air, and that's what determines what makes up the narrative, her personal belief system.
Okay, all right. So, okay, we've got a fascist. All right, let's see. Drop the taxes. Drop socialism. Okay, let's see. You're here with your 2-year-old, and you're already in debt. Why are you here today, sir?
Because I hear a president say that he believed in what Lincoln stood for. Lincoln's primary thing was he believed that people had the right to liberty and they had the right...
Sir, what does this have to do with taxes? What does this have to do with your taxes? Do you realize that you're eligible for a $400 credit?
Finish my point. Lincoln believed that people had the right to share in the fruits of their own labor and that government should not take it. And we have clearly gotten to that point.
Wait. Did you know that the state of Lincoln gets $50 billion out of this stimulus? That's $50 billion for this state, sir.
Ma'am, can you stop this, sir? Hold on.
Okay, well, Kira, we'll move on over here. I think you get the general tenor of this. It's anti-government, anti-CNN, since this is highly promoted by the right-wing conservative network, Fox. And since I can't really hear much more, and I think this is not really family viewing, toss it back to you, Kira.
All right, I know Susan Roesgen's having a hard time hearing me, but wow, that is the prime example of what we're following across the country there. Susan
Major anger about how the left-leaning media covered the Tea Parties earlier this week. One confrontation that was aired involved CNN reporter Susan Roesgen.
I think you get the general tenor of this. It's anti-government, anti-CNN, since this is highly promoted by the right-wing conservative network, Fox.
Okay, but later, when CNN's cameras were off, this confrontation was captured by a civilian.
You are not talking to regular mainstream people. You picked people to talk to.
That's right. That's right.
I don't have a sign. You're not talking to him. You didn't talk to him. He doesn't have a sign.
Why don't you tell me why you're here?
We're here because we are sick and tired of the government taking our money and spending it in ways that we have no say in.
What if someone said to you, well, your elected officials voted for this stimulus package?
They all need to be thrown out. They're all Congress. This is not just Democrats. It's not Republicans. It's all of them. All of them. Are you trying to play stupid?
You know, you really don't need to be so antagonistic.
Well, but we have watched what you've been doing here, and it's not fair.
Talking to people who are holding signs, I'm the majority of the people here have signs.
Did you look at his sign?
Every sign that was in our field of view.
Okay. This is Republicans and Democrats. This is about the government stealing our money.
The chant there was "you spin," and obviously very impassioned by that woman to the reporter, Miss Roesgen. Joining us now from Washington, former CNN anchor and current Fox News star Greta Van Susteren, who you can see on the record at 10, as you know. Now, you worked at CNN, which is why I asked for you to come on the program tonight, and I don't think CNN is nearly as bad as NBC News, who are hateful. They're hateful toward the Tea Party people and anybody who disagrees with their far-left vision at NBC. CNN is left-leaning, no doubt, and they are condescending sometimes. But do you think that the people were taking it out unfairly on Ms. Roesgen?
This was this woman being a total rookie and not understanding that people have a right to protest. Not just a right, it is a constitutional right to
Well,
seek
I think that's the major point. Look, we have Code Pink on here, as you know, all the time. Medea Benjamin's always welcome here. And we have a spirited debate with Mr. Benjamin. I mean, the last time about Afghanistan and the women there. But we're not arrogant toward them. We're not dismissive of them. We think they're misguided.
We're also not vulgar. Wait a second. There's another thing, too, is that many of the networks are being vulgar towards the protesters.
But that's an NBC-driven thing. That was NBC-driven.
Well, no, but
I know Anderson Cooper
No, they don't have a monopoly on that.
No,
they
Anderson
don't have a
Cooper
monopoly on it.
picked it up, but I was surprised because Mr. Cooper usually doesn't do that stuff. He's usually not that way. But, Greta, you got to be honest here. NBC was all day long with that obscene stuff. I mean, it was
Well, with all due respect to you, Bill, with all due respect, I'm not watching it, so, I mean, I don't know. But let me tell you one thing. All right, let me tell you one thing. The reason that MSNBC and CNN are at the bottom when it comes to the number of people watching is because when you are vulgar and disdainful of the viewers, that is sending a message we don't care about you. We're not interested in recovering the facts. And that's the problem that...
All right, last question. That's absolutely right, what you just said. 100% right. Do you think that the failure of those two networks, losing hundreds of millions of dollars because of the failure, is driving the hatred, or is it ideology, Greta?
I think that they are frantically trying to rescue their viewership, which is completely gone. I think they're utterly desperate and trying to make it more showbiz and ginning it up. And it really is troubling to me because, frankly, Bill, there are many fine journalists at both institutions, but I think management, I don't know if this is my imagination, that management is trying to make them into showbiz to show nothing but disdain for the people, the real people. Let me tell you, I picked Candy Crowley as a sample. Candy Crowley has been on the road covering politics for years. She goes out and talks to people, meets people and knows them. When you sort of throw these rookies out there and you have them sort of engage in fights like that, they don't really understand that people do have real grievances, whether you agree with them or not. Right. They have a right to present them.
All right, Greta. We'll see you at 10. Thank you.
Yesterday, we played tape of a Republican congressman joking about lynching Democratic members of Congress. Now it's conservative national radio hosts calling the president Hitler, and conservative national television hosts joking about assassinating the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Right-wing media deliberately and systematically invoking both Nazism and political assassination. Hostile crowds consistently displaying Nazi symbolism at these demonstrations. The corporate-funded anti-reform movement using Hitler as a rhetorical weapon against the president and against Democrats in Congress. It's scary, of course, if they don't understand the implications of their actions. And it's much, much scarier still if they do. Do you think that calling the president a Nazi, calling the president Hitler, is an implicit call for politically motivated violence?
Yes, I do. In fact, what's really being said here is two messages. There's the message to the predominantly white, middle-aged crowds of people screaming at these meetings, trying to shut them down. But there's also a coded message to what I would call the loony.
Tom, okay, you made your comment. Tom, hold on, you made your comment. I never saw anywhere in the news a Democrat carry a picture to any kind of a rally with a picture of Adolf Hitler, putting him close to, with a characterization of Bush. Never saw that.